Hello, I'm Alex Gill with Anime on Location, and we are here at Colossalcon 2015 with Charles Dunbar. How's it going, Charles?
Oh, I'm having a great time. I love this con. It's kind of so much fun.
It is. It's just one big party. Okay, beginning. Could you share with the audience a little bit about your education and what type of activities you've performed at anime conventions as part of your research?
Well, I got my start as in grad school. I was studying cultural anthropology and studying religion, and I've always had this kind of fascination with mythology and fandom, and I found ways of like bringing that together for my department, and they accepted my proposal on talking about fandom as religion and fandom as pilgrimage. I was able to get my degree out, and then I realized I needed people to do the surveys. It's hard doing field work, so what I started doing is I started approaching conventions with the opportunity to do these kind of educational mythology panels and religion panels, and the conventions really liked it because a couple of them said they were looking for content like that. This is back in 2009, and it just kind of happened. And I did all my field work. I got all my research done. I graduated, and then the con started saying, "Well, are you going to keep coming back?" And yeah, and now I do a lot of different educational content, educational tracks. I do some funny little game shows and some quirky fanish panels because I enjoy engaging with the crowd. I enjoy engaging with the people, and it really makes me happy when I can give a panel on something and then like next year someone else comes up and talks about all the great things they were introduced to through it. It makes me feel like, yeah, I'm doing my job to get the next generation ready.
Awesome. All right. Now, over the years that you've been attending, what trends or changes have you noticed, personally or from an academic perspective?
Well, I think the biggest trend that I've noticed is that a lot of anime cons are no longer anime cons. They're very much pop culture appreciation events. And when you go to like a comic con or a pop culture festival, you're looking at a trade show and you're walking through it, consuming the trade. Then you come to an anime convention and you start seeing that there's a lot of different networks going on here. Like you have your Whovians and your Sherlockians and your Supernaturals, and all these different groups are all coming to the anime convention, and they're all setting up shop here. And it requires attendees to become functionally literate in the different aspects of fandom. This isn't so much that this is a convention for anime or Japanese culture, but it's a celebration of fandom. And the fans who come to them now are starting to understand what brings fans together, but also understand common tropes, common trends, and common interests that make fandom amazing. So I think the big thing I've always noticed is that this is no longer a consumption of anime and Japanese culture, but it's really a consumption of fandom in general. And anime has historically been the most open and welcoming of the fandom events, so it makes perfect sense that the anime convention will transform in this way.
That was actually going to be my next question, what you just answered. So, just building on that, is there any particular reason why do you think, the internet of people that we have going on today has been a big part of it?
You know what? I've noticed there is something of a fandom divide, and I've said this numerous times. Years ago, there was this notion that if you wanted to get involved in fandom, you would approach an older fan, the older fan would make fun of you, and then they would teach you what you need to know to become part of the fandom. Then there was sort of a generational schism. Evan Minto from Crunchyroll made a great point of saying that anime has failed to proselytize successfully. Anime fans look at the next generation and they think, well, these people aren't like me, they're not interested in what I'm interested in, and instead of trying to bridge that gap, they walk away. So then it leads to the fans saying, well, how do I indulge my fandom? You have Tumblr, you have Twitter, you have DeviantArt. People are used to experiencing fandom through hashtags, through quick stimulus and quick gratification. So then you come to the con. And now you have a young generation of fans that grew up on this Tumblr idea that come to the con, and that's how they practice. There's nothing wrong with that. That's how they learn their fandom. That's how they learn their fandom. That's how they execute it, and that's how they come together. What needs to happen better is there needs to be a reconciliation between one generation that is used to practicing one way and another generation that is hungry for information but is having trouble getting it. So they made it their own. It's kind of like when Henry Jenkins talked about in convergence theory, people will create what they want if they don't have it. That's what these conventions and these fans are doing now. It doesn't exist. We're going to make it. And again, nothing wrong with that. That's how it's supposed to work. So I think in the end, it needs to come down to the fact that things are changing, and it's changing in a great way. It's an exciting way. It might not be in depth. It might not be dense. It might not be rooted in all of this strict representation of fandom that I remember coming into, but it's still there, and the enjoyment is still there, and the community is still there, and that, in the end, becomes the most important part.
All right. How do you feel that the dynamic between fans who attend conventions and the industries who promote their product at conventions, how do you think that's changed? How do you think fans influence the industry and vice versa at these events today?
Well, I mean, you see with the conventions themselves, a lot of them will start to cater to what the fans want to see. I love how, like, Zenkai-Con used to have a sci-fi track, Sci-Fi at Zenkai, and now they just accept it as a sci-fi and anime con. Kineticon is everything and the kitchen sink, a con for everything. You're starting to see a lot of the people that run the events, like, we'll throw you a panel, we'll give you a photo shoot, and it makes the people feel important. You get your fan art, you get to see, like, you can see a lot of like companies coming around, and they see what's popular, they see what's important, so they phrase their booth characters like that. People are aware. The industry is aware. Funimation is aware. Sentai is very aware what people want, and they find ways of catering it so that the kids will see it, come in and grab it. The conventions are more than willing to accommodate, and I love that. No one is saying that you can't be part of this. It's always now, well, what can we do to make you more excited? And that's important to me when you start seeing things like that.
All right, awesome. How do you feel that anime can be used as a tool to introduce people to a broader range of Japanese culture?
You know, I'm going to say this. You will not learn about Japanese culture by watching anime. But anime, when you find something there that you don't understand, you look it up. That's how I got started. When you go to some of my panels, I try to show you how anime represents things in Japanese culture. But the bulk of what you have to do is you need to find something you find fascinating, compelling, or new, or exciting. You go out there and you grab books on the subject. You go look at a bibliography. You go to my site, studyofanime.com, has a working bibliography. And then you start consuming. Draw your passion to that, because when you want to learn something and you're really big about learning something, all you need is that moment of inspiration. My love, like, of things like, I started watching Bleach and Death Note, and I love the idea of death gods. And next thing you know, I'm reading all these books on funeral practice in Japan. I'm reading all these books on Japanese mythology and folklore. And I built my knowledge simply because I wanted to know more and more and more. And the books and sources are there. The internet, the same internet that transformed the conscape, will give you the answers you want. And then all you do is you go there, you get it, you devour it, you become something new, and then you run with it. You tell other people about it. Anime is the gate. It's the door. It's that beautiful little tori standing right there that says, hey, come on in. And then once you cross into that gate, you're in another world. You're in a mystical world that you never would have thought otherwise of.
All right. Absolutely. Could you tell our audience about some of the presentations you host at conventions and how your presentation style has evolved from fan panels to maybe more scholarly presentations?
I started doing modern mythology, mythic elements in anime and manga, which was a very Campbellian, archetypal, trope-heavy panel because it's what I knew. And then panels started spinning off from that. Like my Eva panel spun off from that, which then spun off into a completely other thing. Then my Death God panel appeared. My Miyazaki panel, I'm going to go say this. I say this every night. That panel is a direct result of sitting through Alex Levitt's panel on Shinichiro Watanabe. And the way he approached that and how he loves Watanabe, I'm like, wow, this is awesome. I want to do something like this. And I realized I know a lot about Miyazaki. So I give him a lot of credit. He inspired me to do a lot of things. Sarah Hodge Weatherby, who does a lot of integration between media and fandom, she inspired me that first Kineticon I went to go out and start to do with this. They started as a boy with a love of mythology and folklore who was researching for his own edification and then deciding to make panels to lecture on it. Somewhere along the way, things changed for me. And I started noticing more subtleties. Like, the major thing with my work, you'll see, like, the Shinto panel. You'll see the religion panel. You'll see the mythology of anime or the Final Fantasy narrative panel, the older stuff, was me throwing a lot of things at the wall. The major transformation for me was the Kill la Kill panel that I do. Shuten Doji versus State Shinto. Kill la Kill was one of those shows where I started approaching it while I was taking doctoral classes, and I started approaching the material and it just kind of, it touched off a spark. And that spark just exploded. And that was one of the first panels I did that I actually view as more of a scholarly lecture than simply a fan having an enormous amount of fun. The idea that I can synthesize the books into there. The idea that I can have conversations with, like, the creators or conversations with other academics and with other, like, really knowledgeable fans. We can have these long-winded discussions. That was one of the first panels where it started. And these days, I'm having a lot more fun taking those kind of alternate media culture approaches to things, because I can talk about the basics, but eventually, even after I've done the basics and the basics and the basics and the basics, I want more. I mean, the same mention of cultural evolution on the con that I mentioned before about fans, I feel that too. I went from an attendee to a fan, to a panelist, from a panelist to a lecturer. And now I'm going into being someone who wants to inspire the next generation. I evolved too. And a lot of my my more recent ones, they take more time to create. They take more time to research properly. My iPad is full of books. I'm reading a beautiful book right now on apocalypse and Japanese pop culture that Paul Grave just put out, and it's just brilliant. And I'm devoting more time to it. So instead of me just creating a loud, expansive, a lot of screaming kind of panel, getting people excited, what I'm doing now is I'm trying to do something that makes me happy. And if the audience gets happy for it, great. And if not, I still have learned, and I'll put my stuff out, and people will have fun with it.
Sounds great. Do you have any convention survival tips that you could share with the viewers? I know you're going to be doing presentations on it, but a few tips you can throw out to the audience.
Bring spare pants. I'm totally serious. Bring spare pants. I mean, there's the general ones like shower, eat. Here's a few that I think that are important. Make sure that you know your roommates. There is nothing wrong with sharing rooms with people at cons. I met one of my friends, my friend Ken, who does like the World War II panels. I met him through the forums at Anime Boston, and we became friends. But you really need to know who you're sharing with. Meet them, talk to them. Don't just share with the first person that comes along, because if you like the person in the room, you can trust them. You don't need to worry about things. A great rule of thumb is leave your money with a frugal friend. My friend Bob goes to a lot of conventions, and I remember we went to Teco one year, and he blew his entire budget in the dealer's room in 10 minutes. And then he had no money. So now when we go to cons, and he goes to Kineticon with me almost every year, he gives me all his money because I don't spend anything. And he'll come to me, and I will try to talk him out of buying something. This way, he leaves the convention with money in his pocket. You need to learn impulse control, and if you don't have it, find a friend that does. And that friend will make sure that you will not go crazy about it. Also, and this is the most important thing, when you meet a voice actor, when you meet like your anime hero, he is the same person, or he or she is the same person that you are. A lot of them. I was so intimidated the first time I met Crispin Freeman. I was terrified because this is a man that I respect greatly. I was introduced to him, we chatted, we went out to dinner, and now we speak on a familiar level because he is just as much a participant in this community as you are, and he learns a lot about the community by encountering with it. The whole reason my Kill la Kill panel works is because he sat me down at Anime Central and said, you can make this better, I'll show you how. Matt Mercer, amazing guy. Steve Bloom, amazing guy. When you meet them, don't be afraid of them, because they meet a lot of fans, and in the case of a lot of them, they love the community just as much as we do. So don't get scared when you meet your favorite, when you meet your favorite voice actor, you meet your favorite mangaka. They appreciate you just as much as you appreciate them, and they're more than willing to talk to you, say hi, and be friendly. Don't go in there thinking that it's crazy. These people are wonderful, magnificent people. Those are the best ones that I can give. Oh, and make sure you sleep. Seriously, sleep. And no, sleep is not a low-cost alternative to caffeine. It's something you actually have to do.
Absolutely. Texts that you recommend. Do you have any literature that you want to shout out to people and say, hey, you should look this up and read it?
Well, the standard ones. Convergence Culture by Henry Jenkins is still my favorite. He also did Spreadable Media 2 years ago that talks about some of this Tumblr aesthetic. Great one to read. Noriko Reader's Oni Japanese Demon Lore. I think the publisher put that out online. You could just download the PDF now. It is a magnificent book. I bought it when it came out. I highly recommend Helen McCarthy's Anime Encyclopedia. Not only is it a great resource, a very expansive and well-researched text, but Helen is the uncrowned queen of the universe. One of the nicest people I have ever had the privilege of meeting. I flew to Asen just to meet her. And she is fantastic. Patrick Drazen, Anime Explosion, I think the new edition is coming out. That is another fantastic book you should read. Anything by Fred Schott. Fred Schott's works are required. Astro Boy Essays, America and the Four Japans. His works are required reading because here's a man who was there when it was happening and a close personal friend of Tezuka himself. The opportunity I had to actually talk to him at Oda Vegas last year was another one of those rewarding situations because he knows so much about this information that you owe it to yourself to read one of his books. One of my favorites right now is this book on apocalypse and Japanese pop culture. It's a lot of fun to read. I just finished reading Kansai Cool, which is a book about like the Kansai and cosplay and all these kind of upgrades. It's very similar to some of the stuff Susan Napier used to do, and I find it to be just like a more updated version of From Impressionism to Anime, something that shows something going on in Japan as it is now. From Impressionism to Anime is a fantastic book if you're looking at the history of like Japanophilia and Japonisme. It's a magnificent, it really is well researched and shows a lot of the origins of Orientalism, and it taught me things about Lafcadio Hearn that I didn't even know. There's another name, Lafcadio Hearn, the original weeaboo. Go out and find his books. They're available for free on pretty much every digital format. And you'll learn a lot about like the early days of Westerners going into Japan and encouraging the culture. I mean, those are the ones that I always tell people when they say, what should I read? Those are the first. If you go to my website, to studyofanime.com, I have a bibliography. It's a tab right at the top, bibliography. Boom. You'll see all the books that I have read and all the books that I have worked with. And I'm also reading a book right now for my trip to Japan in September. It's called Japanese Cool, or Cool Japan. And it's a travel guide to Kyoto, Tokyo, and Tohoku. And unlike other travel guides that say, go to this restaurant, go to this place, the Kyoto section is told through the eyes of Oda Nobunaga and Lady Murasaki. The Tohoku section is told through the legends of Tono. And the Tokyo section has a lot of the Tokyo samurai folklore built into it. So it's one part travel guide, one part exploration of the lore and the culture and the history, and it is a magnificent book. I would recommend reading that even if you're not going to Japan. It's a lot of fun.
Awesome. Any final words for the audience? Any promotions you'd like to throw out there for your own work?
Well, I'm going to be currently. You can acquire my. I wrote a couple of books myself, like little chat books. I got one. This book is called Ghostly Tales. I love Japanese folklore, and as a way of raising money for my trip to Japan, I wrote this book. It's 20 pages long. You can buy it off my website for $5 off Study of Anime. You also there's a Study of Anime page you can like on Facebook now because a lot of people are asking me like where my stuff is, and apparently nobody goes to my website anymore. So Study of Anime now has a Facebook page that you can like. In terms of upcoming cons, I will be at Anime Next. I'll be at Anime Mid-Atlantic. I'll be at Kineticon. I'll be at Otakon. I'll be at Inconceivable. I might be at a KaiCon. I don't know yet. I'm definitely going to be at Tsubasacon, NekoCon, BonsaiCon, and Sangwa Project. Those are some of I think those are the rest of my shows for this year. Other than that, yeah, just look me up on Study of Anime. It's at Study of Anime on Twitter. My GoFundMe is gofundme.com/SOA Japan. And yeah, that's all of my self-promotion. And yeah.
All right. Thanks a bunch, Charles. Always a pleasure speaking with you.
Oh, yeah, dude, I do not see you enough.
No.
I do not see this guy enough. I hung out with him like that one Otakon, and then it's like, whenever I'm in Ohio, you're not. Mentions these days. Oda Brew, a bunch of bloggers and people who love anime. We get together, drink some craft beer, and then start complaining about anime. It's amazing. This is what the con scene is becoming. Oh, and that's another thing. Survival tip: just because you're an adult doesn't mean you can't have fun. Believe me. Bring bring your nephew and come to the con and have fun with it. You gotta go and make your own experience. And if your experience doesn't exist, make it exist. Like, I didn't see educational panels at cons. I started doing it. Now everyone's doing it, and it's fun because it helps make the community better. And this is an awesome community. I am 34 years old, and I still come to like 20 cons a year.
Absolutely. Once again, Charles, thanks a bunch.
Thank you.
Thanks for hanging out with us, and see you soon.